The winter market was buzzing with life. Lights twinkled overhead, and the air smelled like cinnamon and roasted chestnuts. Snow was falling softly on the cobblestones, and you could hear vendors calling out, kids laughing, couples chatting. Everyone was moving, shopping, living. Everyone except her. Near the fountain, by an old wooden bench, sat a little girl in a wheelchair. Her name was Emma. She was 7 years old. She sat there so quietly, like she was part of the scenery. Her blonde hair caught the light from the market stalls, and she wore this pink knitted hat pulled down over her ears, matched her little winter coat perfectly. Her mom had made it for her. You could tell by the way she touched it sometimes, like it was the most precious thing in the world. Her legs couldn't carry her, couldn't let her run around like the other kids. But her eyes, God, those eyes were something else. Bright and curious, taking everything in. Her small hands were folded in her lap, and she just watched families walk by with their shopping bags and their laughter all bundled up together against the cold. She wasn't sad about it. She wasn't asking for anything. She was just there, present in a way most people never are. A few stalls away stood a man who looked completely out of place. Richard Hayes, 42 years old, expensive dark coat, tailored suit underneath, hairstyled just so. The kind of guy you'd see on the cover of Forbes, not wandering around a street market in the snow. He was a billionaire, though honestly, that word made him feel more alone than anything else, like it was the only thing people saw when they looked at him. Tonight, he'd come alone. No assistants, no security team hovering 3 feet away, no one trying to get something from him. He'd told them all he needed one evening to himself, just to walk, just to think, just to feel like a regular person for a few hours. His life had become this endless loop of boardrooms and charity galas, of people shaking his hand while looking past him at what he could do for them. Success looked great on paper. In real life, it was pretty damn empty. He was looking for something real. He couldn't quite put his finger on what, but he'd know it when he found it. That's when he saw her. There was something about the way Emma sat there, so calm, so observant, that made him stop walking. She wasn't performing for anyone, wasn't trying to get attention. She was just being, and there was something beautiful about that. He walked over slowly, didn't want to scare her. When he was a few feet away, he stopped and smiled. "Hey there," he said, keeping his voice gentle. "That's a really nice hat you've got." Emma looked up at him. Those bright eyes, no fear in them at all, just openness. She smiled, just a little. "Thank you," she said quietly. "My mom made it for me." Something shifted in Richard's chest. This kid wasn't afraid of him, wasn't sizing him up, wasn't trying to figure out what she could get from him. Just simple, honest truth. "Your mom sounds pretty talented," he said, and then he did something he hadn't done in years. He crouched down on the wet pavement so he was at her level. His expensive pants soaked through immediately. He didn't care. "Is she here with you?" Emma nodded toward a small coffee cart across the square. "She's working. She works every night so we can keep our apartment." Richard followed her gaze and saw a woman in her early 30s, blonde hair like Emma's pulled back in a simple ponytail. She was thin, tired, moving quickly as she served coffee to a line of customers. Her coat was worn at the elbows. Her hands never stopped moving, like every second counted because it did. Her name was Sarah, and there was something about her, this quiet strength, this dignity even while she was exhausted, that reminded Richard of his own mother years ago. "She works really hard," Emma said, and God, you could hear the pride in her voice. "She's the best mom in the whole world." Richard looked back at this little girl. The love in her voice was so pure, so absolute. He realized he was witnessing something he'd forgotten existed, real, uncomplicated devotion. No strings attached, no conditions. "I can see that," he said softly. "You must be really proud of her." "I am." Emma paused, then added in a smaller voice, "Sometimes I wish I could help her more, though. She gets so tired." Richard felt his throat tighten. He'd been thinking about kids lately, about adoption, about filling up that massive, echoing house of his with something other than silence. He'd met with agencies, looked through files, sat through presentations, but it all felt so transactional, like he was shopping for furniture instead of opening his heart. But this, right here, right now, sitting in the snow with this incredible kid, this felt different. This felt real. Emma, he said carefully, can I ask you something? She tilted her head, curious. Okay. I've been thinking a lot lately about family, about what it means to take care of someone and to be taken care of. He paused, choosing his words carefully. This mattered more than any business deal he'd ever made. And I was wondering, would you maybe want to come live with me? I've got this big house with lots of room. You'd have your own space, anything you needed. Best doctors, best schools, whatever you want. I could give you a really good life. Emma's eyes went wide. For a moment, she didn't say anything, and Richard thought maybe he'd screwed this up, been too forward, too presumptuous. But then she spoke, and her words stopped his heart cold. That's really kind of you, she said softly. But I can't leave my mom. She needs me. Richard felt something crack inside him. Emma, I'd make sure your mother was taken care of too. I could help her. Give her money so she wouldn't have to work so hard. But Emma was already shaking her head, and now there were tears forming in those bright eyes. You don't understand, she whispered, and her voice was shaking. If I left her, she'd be all alone. She'd have nobody to come home to, nobody to tell about her day, nobody to hug her when she's sad. The words hit Richard like a punch to the gut. This 7-year-old kid understood something he'd spent 42 years trying to figure out. That money can't buy what matters. That love isn't about what you can provide. It's about who you show up for, who you choose every single day. I see, he said quietly. And for the first time in a long time, he really did see. Emma wiped her eyes with her small hand. Then she looked at him with an expression way too old for her face, filled with a wisdom that took his breath away. Please, she said, her voice trembling but determined. Please don't adopt me. She took a shaky breath. Adopt my mom instead. Richard blinked. He must have heard wrong. What? Adopt my mom? Emma repeated, and now the tears were really falling. She's the one who needs a family. She's the one who's all alone except for me. She works so hard and never complains. She never buys anything for herself. She makes me hats and tells me stories and makes everything okay, even when things are really hard. The words were pouring out of her now, like they'd been building up inside for so long. But nobody takes care of her. Nobody makes her feel special. If you adopted her, we'd both have a family, we'd all have each other, and my mom wouldn't be alone anymore. She wouldn't have to be so tired all the time. Emma's voice broke. She deserves to smile more. Richard couldn't speak, couldn't move. He'd sat across from the sharpest minds in business. He'd negotiated deals worth hundreds of millions. But he'd never, ever encountered wisdom like this. Snow kept falling around them, soft and quiet, like the world was holding its breath. He looked across the square at Sarah, still working, completely unaware of this conversation. And he saw her differently now, not just as Emma's mom, but as a person, a woman who'd been carrying the weight of the world and never asked for anything, who gave everything. Emma, he said, his voice thick. You are the smartest, kindest person I have ever met. She smiled through her tears. Does that mean you'll think about it? He laughed, a real laugh that came from somewhere deep inside him. Yeah, I'll think about it. But he was already doing more than thinking. He could feel something opening up inside him, like a door in a house that had been locked for way too long. Would you mind? He asked gently, if I went and talked to your mom? Emma's whole face lit up like the Christmas lights around them. Really? Really? He said. But I want you to know something first. No matter what happens, I'm going to make sure you and your mom are okay. Both of you. Together. Emma reached out her small hand. Richard took it, felt those delicate fingers curl around his. Such a simple thing. But it meant everything. He stood up, knees creaking a bit, and walked across the square toward the coffee cart. His heart was pounding harder than it ever did before a presentation. Because this was real. This mattered. Sarah was handing change to a customer when she looked up and saw him coming. Her expression immediately went guarded, protective. Richard got it. Guys like him usually meant trouble. Can I help you? She asked. Polite, but wary. I hope so, Richard said. He glanced back at Emma, who was watching them with hopeful eyes. I was just talking to your daughter. Sarah's face immediately shifted to concern. Is something wrong? Is she okay? She's perfect, Richard said quickly. More than okay. She's remarkable. Sarah relaxed a little, but the exhaustion was still there, written all over her face. Richard took a breath. This was harder than any pitch he'd ever made. My name is Richard Hayes. I came here tonight looking for something I'd lost. Didn't even know what it was until I met your daughter. Sarah was watching him carefully, trying to figure out his angle. Richard understood. People like him always wanted something. She told me about you. He continued. About how hard you work. About how much she loves you. And then she said something that kind of changed my life. He told her everything. About the conversation, about his offer, about Emma's tears and her words. As he spoke, he watched Sarah's face transform from suspicion to surprise to something that looked like wonder mixed with disbelief. When he finished, Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, very softly, she said that. About adopting me? Richard nodded. She did. And she was right. I've been thinking about family all wrong. I was looking for someone to fill my empty house. But what I really need is to be part of something real. Something honest. Sarah's eyes were glistening now. Mr. Hayes, we don't need charity. This isn't charity. Richard said firmly, I don't even know what to call it. A chance, a possibility. He paused. Your daughter taught me something tonight that I should have learned a long time ago. That family isn't about what you can give someone. It's about showing up. It's about choosing each other. He took a breath. I'm not asking to adopt you, Sarah. That would be crazy. But I am asking if maybe we could get to know each other. You and Emma and me. Maybe we could have dinner sometime. See if there's something here worth building. A friendship, at least. Maybe more over time. Sarah looked past him to Emma, who was still watching them. Their eyes met across the square, and something passed between them, a question and an answer, all without words. When Sarah looked back at Richard, there were tears on her cheeks. But she was smiling. My shift ends in an hour, she said. There's a diner 2 blocks from here. Nothing fancy. Richard felt his heart soar. Nothing fancy sounds perfect. That night, the 3 of them sat in a worn booth at Martha's diner, sharing pie and hot chocolate. Emma told stories that made them all laugh until their sides hurt. Sarah talked about her dreams for her daughter, her voice full of hope for the first time in years. And Richard just listened, really listened, feeling more present, more alive than he'd been in decades. As they talked and laughed and slowly became comfortable with each other, Richard realized something. Emma had given him the greatest gift he'd ever received. Not by accepting his offer, but by refusing it. She'd shown him that real love means putting someone else first. That family is built on sacrifice and showing up and choosing each other over and over again. Over the next few months, Richard became part of their lives, not as some rich benefactor or savior, but as a friend. Then, slowly, as something more. He and Sarah discovered they had more in common than anyone would have guessed. They both knew what hard work meant. They both understood that the best things in life can't be bought. They both loved Emma with everything they had. A year later, on a snowy evening, just like the one where they'd first met, Richard knelt down in that same market square and asked Sarah to marry him. Emma was right beside him, holding the ring box in her lap, her face absolutely glowing. When Sarah said yes, the 3 of them held each other tight as snow fell softly around them. And Richard knew He'd finally found what he'd been searching for, not someone to fill his empty house, but a family to build a home with, together. Emma had been right all along. Sometimes the greatest act of love is asking someone to love the person you love most. And sometimes, if you're very, very lucky, they say yes.